I hope you understood what I taught in the part 1 feminism. Let's see the remaining in the part 2 of feminism. In the previous post, we saw how Mary Wollstonecraft classified feminism. Very similarly, various other feminist critics have classified the movement. Let's see how Toril Moy classified the feminism. She classified the feminist movement into three phases. First one, the female, and the second, the feminist, and the third, feminine. Female is based on biological, and feminist is based on political, and feminine is based on cultural. Let's see what is gynocriticism in this slide. Every movement and ism have undergone some changes and modifications as they develop and grow. Elaine Showalter described the change in one of her famous works Towards a Feminine Poetics that was published in 1970s. And she described the change as a shift of attention from androtext to gynotext. Androtext means books written by male writers. Gynotext means books written by female writer. In the late 1970s, women writers or the feminist or women readers have taken their attention from androtext, that is, they have taken their attention from androtext, that is, book written by male writers, and they started giving more focus to the books written by female writers. And she, in her famous work Towards a Feminine Poetics, introduces the concept of gynocriticism. Let's see what is gynocriticism. Gynocriticism is the historical study of women writers and their distinct literary tradition. So here she aptly described that women are not passive consumers but active producers of meaning. Women are not passive consumers. Passive consumers. Who are consumers? Consumers are persons who purchase goods or make use of others' production. Okay, here women don't want to be passive readers of the books written by male writers, and they started writing their own literary work. They started giving more focus to the creative writing. So instead of reading the books produced by male writers, they became active producers. It means they started producing or writing literary works, and that is, they started involved in creative writing. And moreover, they were very particular in order to distinguish themselves from the style of male writers. For example, if we take the subject of gynocriticism or history, style, themes, genres and structure of writing by women. So, the subjects of gynocriticism. Gynocriticism we have already seen, the historical study of women writers, and moreover and their distinct literary tradition. And women writer, they started giving more importance to style, techniques, themes, genres and structure. In all these manner, they wanted to be different from male writers. So let me list out some of the major gynocritical texts. Patricia Spack's The Female Imagination, Elaine Showalter's A Literature of Their Own, and Sandra Gilbert and Susan Gubar's The Mad Woman in the Attic. Let's see the three phases of Elaine Showalter. Elaine Showalter is not only famous for introducing the concept gynocriticism, and she is also popular for classifying the history of women's writing into three phases in her work A Literature of Their Own, in which she has classified the women's writing into feminine phase, feminist phase and female phase. Let's see what is feminine phase in this slide. Feminine phase, that was between 1840 and 1880. Feminine phase adheres to the male values, writing as men, and efforts have been taken to equal the intellectual achievements of male culture, and has not entered into debate regarding women's place in society. That is, during the feminine phase, women writers adheres to the male values. Women writers adheres to the male values. It means initially women writers devoted themselves to the writing style of men. At the same time, writing as men is nothing but they wanted to simply imitate the male writers. They wanted to simply imitate the style, techniques and themes handled by male writers. For that, they have taken so much of efforts in order to equal the intellectual achievement to that of male culture, to that of male writer. And they wanted to compete the intellectual standard of male literary tradition. Until then, they have had no idea and they have had no intention of creating a separate place for themselves in the society. Moreover, female writers often employed male pseudonyms during this period and imitated dominant male artistic norms and aesthetic standards. So, we may wonder what was the reason for employing male pseudonyms for the female writers. But there were so many reasons listed. Let me point a few reasons, very few reasons. The first thing is, in order to publish their critical and creative works without any difficulties, that is, without prejudice in the male dominated society. And second thing is to encourage the male readership in the sense, the intention of women writer is to attract the male writers because they have expressed their opinion, they have expressed their difficulties and they have explained their experience in their work. So they wanted to encourage the male readers to understand the female difficulties and their experience, so that they imitated the male artistic norms as well as the aesthetic standard, and they have employed male pseudonyms. Let's see what is feminist phase in this slide. Feminist phase, that was between 1880 and 1920. Feminist phase denotes political involvement, and women writers questioned the stereotypes, challenged the restrictions of women's language, denounced the ethic of women's language, denounced the ethic of self-sacrifice, and used of fictional and dramatization of oppression to bring about social and political changes. Let me explain you the line. Feminist phase denotes political involvement. It means during the feminist phase, women started exploring their difficulties. Women started exploring the difficulties encountered by women to public with the intention of finding solution by breaking a very long silence. As well as women writers questioned stereotypes. What is meant by stereotypes? Stereotype is nothing but conventional nature or conventional behavior of women, that is how women should be, which was designed, which was constructed by the male centered society, which was constructed by male dominant society. So for example, our society expect women to be polite, submissive and sacrificer, and women should satisfy their men, and women are expected to be slim and fair. During this phase, women writers started questioning these stereotypes, and also they challenged the restrictions of women's language. That is, though women got independence to express their feelings and emotions in the form of their writing, they were restricted by so much of rules and regulations. For example, our society expect that the language of women writers should be more polite, submissive and euphemistic, and the language that they employ should not be aggressive and argumentative. Next one, denounce the ethics of self-sacrifice. What do you mean by denouncing the ethics of self-sacrifice? The women started condemning, they started accusing the ethic of self-sacrifice. And last one, and use a fictional dramatization of oppression to bring about social and political changes. It means they disclose a oppression, suppression, ill treatment faced by women to bring social and political changes. Let's move to the next point. They embodied a declaration of independence in female tradition and stood up to the male establishment in an outspoken manner, challenging the monopoly of male press, and many feminist journals came into being, and some writers, likely Virginia Woolf, controlled their own press. Let's see. They embodied a declaration of independence. It means women have all rights to enjoy their liberty as that of men, and they are also born to cherish and nourish their lives without much restrictions. And they stood up to the male establishment in an outspoken manner. It means they ignored the male establishment, they avoided the male establishment. For example, the male chauvinist society established so much of rules and regulation to exploit their liberty of women, and that was opposed by women, and challenging the monopoly of the male press. Women writers challenged the monopoly of male press, that is, the excessive control over male press. So some feminist writers started establishing press to publish and to encourage the writings of women. For example, Virginia Woolf, she owned a separate. Let's see the last phase, female phase. That is from 1920 onwards. Female phase is a self-discovery. Showalter says women reject both imitation and protest, two forms of dependency, and turn instead to female experience as a source of an autonomous art, extending the feminist analysis of culture to the forms and techniques of literature. So let me explain. Ellen Showalter says women reject both imitation and protest. So initially women had a habit of imitating male literary tradition, and women opposed, challenged, questioned and accused the opposite gender, that is male. And during the female phase they rejected these two practices, and they focus their attention towards female experience, female world, and which is taken as the prime source of autonomous art. They started analyzing the forms and techniques employed by women writers during this phase.